right. Lucasfilm has officially announced that there will be a Star Wars The Force Awakens panel in Hall H on Friday, July 10th at San Diego Comic-Con this year. J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, Lawrence Kasdan, and other special guests are set to appear. A complete guide to all Star Wars-related events at San Diego Comic-Con can be found on the StarWars.com website. Star Wars The Force Awakens premieres this December 18th in AMC Theatres everywhere. Dennis, what do you think of this announcement?
I'm very happy, and I'm also very relieved as well, because we all know that Marvel is not going to be at Comic-Con this year. And while we assumed Star Wars was going to be there, there was kind of, at least for myself, a little kind of hesitation, like, oh man, are they not going to do Star Wars as well? Are they going to save everything for D23? But for me, I'm happy. The big question is, who are the special guests? Most likely it's going to be John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, maybe Domhnall Gleeson, and Gwendolyn Christie. But are the big three going to be there? That's the big question. Because we've seen Harrison Ford was actually at Comic-Con one year. That was for, sadly, Cowboys and Aliens. But I think Jon Favreau convinced him to go. Will he show up this one, or are they saving them for the D23 Expo? What do you think, Christian?
I thought this was kind of given that they were going to do this at Hall H, just because, for what you just said, Marvel's not going to be there. Disney has to have a presence. They can't let Warner Brothers take all of the headlines. So that's what's going to happen. And yeah, D23 is going to happen, but I think there's going to be a stronger focus on Rogue One. I think that they are definitely, because we haven't had a full trailer yet. So as far as timing goes, it makes the most sense that they would do it at this time. And because it's on Friday, it's just a matter of when they do it, in the morning, or is it going to be after afternoon? Whenever it is, that full trailer is going to take the headlines of that day. But the real question, I think, is, I think they're going to release that trailer, and then the whole world's going to get it, kind of what they did at Celebration. But I think they're also going to show like a scene or something, or like some footage from the movie that only Hall H gets, because I think that that's one of the reasons they're going to do that. And then I think as far as the big three goes, I've always been under the belief that I don't ever think Harrison Ford is going to show up to one of these things ever again, especially now. First of all, he's socially, he doesn't like doing them. Second of all, everything he's been going through lately, he just recovered, even though he's flying again. Don't be surprised if Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher are there. That I could see happening, but yeah.
Yeah, if there's one thing that could get that poor squirrel off my mind this morning, it's the news that we get some Star Wars presence at Comic-Con. The real interesting thing to me is that they brought John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, and Oscar Isaac to Star Wars Celebration, right? And we got to know a little bit of their characters, and we got to see them without any, like masks or anything in the trailer. So maybe the special guests that they bring to Comic-Con is another person, like a Domhnall Gleeson or an Adam Driver or Gwendolyn Christie or Max von Sydow, somebody, and then you get to see that person in the footage that they show, whether it's a new trailer or whether it's a scene. I'm not sure that they would show us just something for Comic-Con and nothing else, because of the popularity of Star Wars and how easy it is for footage like that to leak. I think that whatever footage that they're going to show at Comic-Con, I think will get released to the whole world around the same time, maybe a day later, but it's just nice to know that my trip to Comic-Con is going to have some sort of Star Wars presence with it.
I can see them bringing on those actors, like the new ones and the new characters, and have them do the panel. And maybe at the end, they bring out the big three. Maybe Harrison Ford is willing to do that. Just make an appearance, wave, and then have everyone cheer, and then, the panel ends.
Well, the only reason, you got to remember the reason why he did Cowboys and Aliens. Nobody knew about the property. Yeah. So it was a favor, like you said, to Favreau as well, because they wanted more people to know about it. And you bring Harrison Ford out there, people know. They don't need Harrison Ford to do it. They just don't need him to. And whether or not he wants to do it, I think that the answer is going to be no as far as him wanting to do it. It's great that he's got that excitement back. And even J.J. Abrams in that Vanity Fair thing said he's got that excitement. He's wanted to do it. So that's why I don't expect to see him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Serkis was there, because Andy Serkis has always been a big Comic-Con guy. He's been there for Lord of the Rings and for Apes. So to see, and now that we know who, well, not necessarily all about who he is, but we know that he's got a pretty big role. But I got to say, that is an amazing graphic that Ray did, by the way, with all the Comic-Con badges and
little JJ, as Snoke in the background.
Really, really good.
And then what percentage would put the chance of the trailer dropping at Comic-Con instead of D23?
I wouldn't put it. I still don't put it that high. I think that you're going to get a short snippet of a scene as opposed to a full trailer.
Isn't that what isn't that the report? Is it the full trailer is going to drop?
I don't know.
I thought it was just footage. I thought it was. I don't know that they said anything.
Oh, I say 100%.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
I'd say 75%. I'm pretty sure we're going to, but if they say on a side note though, okay, Marvel's not going to be there this year.
Right.
Is Marvel coming back next year?
That's a great question. I don't know, because they were so successful with that thing that they did in February and March this year. I think that it would behoove Marvel to do what Star Wars does and have them do their own Marvel Con. That's what they should do. I mean, they have enough comics to do it. They have enough movies now to do it. They have video games. They could do easily what Star Wars Celebration did, Marvel Celebration, and they don't have to do it. But I don't know if they're going to do that anytime soon.
I still don't understand the strategy at all with Marvel not being there at all this year, especially because they have a huge movie that's not a known property coming out a week after Comic-Con. Like, why would you not want to promote Ant-Man at all at Comic-Con? I don't understand that decision. I think it's weird for Marvel not to be there at all, even if it's just a limited kind of presence. I think they'll be back next year, but it really spells a weird future for Comic-Con if Marvel doesn't go from now on.
Well, I can see, okay, maybe they hypothetically just didn't have enough ready, or they didn't feel like it was worth their time to come this year because they only had...
But comics too?
I don't know about that part. I'm just talking about the movie division. However, if they don't show up again next year, I think that's kind of a slap in the face to the fans, because you're saying, look, I understand that Marvel's popular enough to have their own con like Star Wars had Celebration. However, not everyone can afford to go to all these different cons, right? Not everyone can go to Star Wars Celebration, go to Marvel Con, if that's what it is, D23, and Comic-Con. So some people can only go to one, and they choose the biggest one of them all, which is the San Diego Comic-Con. And to me, like Marvel, let's just say they don't come next year. I think that's an insult to the fans.
That's a great point. But as far as being, right now they're the biggest one on the block. But maybe that's kind of the plan. Maybe the plan is to, if by eventually going away from them, not making them the biggest. Because listen, I've been to a lot of the Comic-Cons over the last couple of years, and I loved them. And not just because I'm a Star Wars fan. I promise you this. Like, Star Wars Celebration to me was the best run con I've ever been at, the best vibe. And it was because it was all geared. Like, when you go to Comic-Con and you walk through, there's something there for everybody, but you can kind of lose track. If you're a Star Wars fan, every corner you hit and every person you run into is of the same, is there for the same reason. And I think that Marvel would do the same thing. And people that were there for as Marvel fans could choose that con over San Diego and be okay with it, because eventually, if more, I hear the studio presence in general wants to start scaling back at Comic-Con.
Eventually, yeah, but I think the slap in the face is this year, because Marvel, they were hinting that they weren't going to have a big presence, but it's not like you just roll up to Comic-Con and buy tickets. You have to get these things months and months advance. You have to wait online for this one tiny window, where as a fan you can get a ticket, and you're expecting this is the biggest comic book convention. You should get all the major comic book properties there, and so to not have Marvel there, I think it's a huge bummer. Thank God we are going to have some cool DC news, hopefully, and obviously with this announcement, Star Wars.
But see, we live in California, and we live in Southern California, and we're like, okay, it's easy for us to get down to Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim. Let's say they do a Marvel Con, probably going to be in Anaheim again. We can't, but not everyone can do that. So someone like that, myself, right, that likes all this stuff. I like Marvel, I like Star Wars, I like DC stuff, I like TV shows, movies, video games. I want to see all of that in one place. I don't want to go to 5 different conventions, whether it's for money reason or time reason. So
I think that's space is another reason too, because San Diego Comic-Con is getting so big right now that they either have to expand that convention center or move it. And I think that's been a talk for both.
That's an interesting point. If Marvel's holding out because you just don't have enough room, and look, when you go to Comic-Con every year, we've been down there the last 4 years, every year it seems like it gets bigger and bigger. It's a bigger sea of people. And downtown San Diego, I love the Gaslamp District. There's only so many spaces, there's only so many hotels, there's only so many booths you can have. So if Marvel just wants it to no longer be in San Diego, they're making that point.